The Midgard campaign setting by Kobold Press is a lot of things. In one way, it is a high fantasy campaign setting where spellcasters tap into magical ley lines in order to create world-changing magical effects. People are riding on dragons and undead seem to crawl out of every hole in the face of the earth. On the other hand, it is a real gritty, boots-on-the-ground feeling campaign setting where adventurers who want to accomplish something in that world really need to get their hands dirty. But there is one team that spans across the entire world of Midgard when you read through all of the books by Kobold Press, and those are the Fey. They come in all shapes and sizes, and they're all ruled by at least one Fey Lord or one Fey Lady, which in their turn can provide you with great adventure potential for your table. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Tarask, and if you are a fan of Kobold Press, if you are a fan of Midgard, you're playing in that world, or you're just using their books for your own campaign or your own game at your own table, this is the channel for you. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because I provide you with information, lore, story hooks, IDs, and all kinds of stuff for Kobold Press players, people who use their products. And today I want to talk about the Fey Lords and the Fey Ladies, which is a theme that I see returning in their books all the time. Every book I read, there is at least mention about Fey Lords and Fey Ladies, and I just want to quickly talk about what they are at first, who they are in general, and then I want to talk about three Fey Lords, actually 4 Fey Lords and Fey Ladies that I find interesting and that I've actually used in my games or I'm about to use in one of my games myself. So let's get into it. First of all, the Fey Lords and the Fey Ladies are the people that rule over a particular group of Fey. As you know, the Midgard campaign setting by Kobold Press is a gigantic campaign setting, and there is a lot of Fey activity in it. Elves, dark elves, other types of elves, high elves, I don't know, people with horns and werewolves and all kind of Fey activity. And they are all, from the outside, people looking into the Fey worlds and Fey creatures are always like, they seem to be a little bit trickery, they seem to be somewhat evil, somewhat weird and chaotic in a way, but the truth is actually, the Fey are actually ruled by Fey Lords and Ladies, and there is a lot of rules, codes, and hierarchy going on. Now, some Fey Lords and Ladies are pure, you beat me and you become the new ruler type of Fey Lords, and other Fey Lords and Ladies approach it from more of a hierarchy standpoint, where you need to reach certain levels in order to talk to certain people, and you need to reach new levels to talk to even higher people and get higher in the hierarchy thing, and they have their own courts, and people within their courts have their own courts, and they have their followers that cross from one Fey Lord to another Fey Lord all the time, and there's intrigue and politics going on, all that jazz. And there's actually 3 Fey Lords and Ladies that I've used in my games. I say 3, but I have to say 4, but I'm getting into that in a little bit, that I use in my games, that I just want to quickly talk about how I use them and how they fit into my games, and where you can actually find adventures to actually play adventures that have these Fey Lords and Ladies as either quest givers, bad guys, good guys, whatever. They all have one thing in common. They're kind of timeless creatures. They are immortal in a way. They will rule their section, their people. So one sort of Fey, sometimes it could be like a shadow Fey or high elves. It could be like they could rule over a magical river, or a part of the shadow realm, or just a part of a magical forest. They all rule over their section until theoretically end of time, or until, of course, a group of adventurers comes in and stops them, or another Fey Lord and Lady comes in and stops them. But stopping them is really hard, because you cannot really kill a Fey Lord or a Fey Lady unless you have something, and I'm going to have to peek for this, you have something that is called Cold Wrath Iron. This is a special type of sword or pike or whatever. It's a special type of iron which is forged without heat. Basically, that's the way I see it. It's forged without heat, which is really weird, but it functions as kind of a magical weapon only against Fey Lords and Fey Ladies. Other than that, it's just normal weapon, but there's not a lot of people in the Midgard campaign setting that actually know what it is. It's really hard to find one, and it's really hard to create one. But I think this is a really cool detail that all the Fey Lords and the Fey Ladies have in common. Now, let's just get into some of the Fey Lords and Fey Ladies, what they do, where they are in the world, and how you can use them in your game. Now, if you're looking for Fey Lords and Fey Ladies to use in your game, the best book to get is the Tome of Beasts #1, the first monster book by Kobold Press. I have reviews on all these books, by the way, on my channel, but this one has an entire lore piece about the Fey Lords and Fey Ladies on page 187, if I'm not mistaken, sorry, 184. There's an entire lore piece about the Lords and the Ladies, the Fey Lords and the Ladies, and then there are a bunch of them with their effects and whatever they can do. And the first one I want to talk about is the Bear King. This one is my absolute favorite because I really like the Fey Lords and Ladies, and I really like, as a player, I like playing like these courtly adventures with a lot of political intrigue and a lot of role playing and spending like 3 sessions without combat and just being my character. But as a dungeon master, I'm not as good in that side of things. So as a dungeon master, I play more like these dirty adventures, getting your boots dirty, getting your hands dirty, and the Bear King is absolutely brilliant for that. By the way, the Bear King sits in a section of the world in the north called Bjornreich. Now, I talked about this before on my channel in another video when I talked about what's up north, so what's in the Northlands, that I think this is really interesting. Bjornreich is a Reich with bear folk, werebears, all kinds of bears, black bears, white bears, brown bears. There's so many bears, and they all like honey, but they all have one thing in common, and that is the Bear King is their ruler and actually lives in a capital city called Bjornheim, which literally means bear city or something like that. So Bjornheim has a really cool thing going on. The Bear King, by the way, we're going back to the Bear King, is like, he sits there on his throne. He rules over it, and every year there is this competition because there is like a lot of fish going into the city because the city sits on a river, next to the water. There's a lot of fish coming in, and humans and dwarves alike, fishermen, get over there to catch as much fish as they can. But of course, the bear folk want to do the same thing, and it's really cool that there is this it becomes this competition where people even get like, they start fighting and they maybe even kill each other every now and then over a pond, over a fishing spot, because there's so many fish and everybody wants that richness. But the cool thing about the Bear King is he has this. He's always sending out requests for people to beat him in certain challenges. He puts out challenges, and this could be anything. In the book, they don't go really deep into that, and that's the cool thing about it. You can really make that up for yourself, but they have challenges. He has challenges that you as a player or anybody can go to, and if you beat him, you basically become the new ruler of Bjornheim, and in extent Bjornreich. Nobody has ever succeeded in that because probably the Bear King picks challenges that he's very good at, like eating a shit ton of honey. And that's another thing. They all like honey a lot, and there is this really, really good honey, and the Bear King always has like a big pot of honey next to him on his belt to eat from, and also the cool thing, to use in combat. And yeah, the Bear King can do a bunch of really cool stuff. As I said, he can throw honey around, but the thing is, he has 3 forms. He has a grizzly form, so he really becomes a bear. Then he has a what they call a hybrid form, which is something of a bear and something of a human, and then he has a human form. As you see him right here, I would say this could be like his hybrid form because he has a really big beard and kind of a human-esque face, but he has bear paws and bear hands, bear feet or whatever. So he's kind of a bear body humanoid kind of creature who is really powerful. Challenge rated 12, by the way. He can throw honey to let me see, honey toss. The Bear King reaches into a jar he carries inside and hurls a glob of honey at a target 30 feet as a ranged weapon attack. If the attack hits, the creature is restrained. Escape VC 17. So that's cool, right? And I just think the lore about the Bear King is really cool. He just sits in there is this entire section of the world where everything of course, I'm leaving a lot of stuff out. This is a rough guide to Midgard, meaning that I'm just giving you pointers to where to look for and what to look for if you like certain things. Normally, if you get into the vicinity of the Bear King, beasts within 10 miles of the Bear King's lair are easily agitated and quick to attack. Emotions within 5 miles of the Bear King's lair run high. Even enjoyable get-togethers are likely to become rushes, even brawls. So if you get closer to the Bear King, your emotions run high, and every time somebody coughs or farts or whatever, you want to hit them in the face until their nose bleeds or whatever. If they say something about your mom, you will probably kill them. And there's like a lot of beasts. And there's another thing I want to quickly talk about. Bjornheim is actually defended by bees. They have hives of bees in the towers that protect the cities. There's walls everywhere in the city, and the bees just protect the city, which is a really cool detail. And that's the kind of thing that Kobold Press always comes up with, right? So always this weird stuff. And there's also a few things they talk about in order to get some adventure going, some adventure hooks for the Bear King. Kobold Press always has, like, for every section of the world, they have a bunch of adventures, and there's adventure hooks. They are not real adventures, these are just IDs you can use. Adventures in Bjornreich, for example, the guardian bees are dying, and you need to find out why. The Bear King has announced a great contest to find the first spring bloom of the legendary honey lotus, and PCs try to go find it. Old Honeypaws has decided, by the way, the Bear King's name is Old Honeypaws, which is really funny, has decided Johanna would make a fine bear queen and mate for him. However, she has rebuffed his advances. The PCs are sent to woo her on his behalf. If they do the job well, she falls for a party member enraging the Bear King. This last one is really cool. The Bear King is like, I want to mate with that female bear. Go and woo her on my behalf. So they go over there and they're like, the Bear King is in love with you, but they probably have a bard in the party who is really good at seducing other creatures, and this bear folk lady falls in love with the party bard, and then the Bear King is really, really angry. By the way, normally if you travel through Bjornreich or Bjornheim or whatever, you are not attacked. You are allowed to as an adventurer, as long as you do not do anything to anger the Bear King. Once you do, you're fucked. Now, there is one problem that I have with the Bear King in the Tome of Beasts, and that is, it's a big problem for me. It is a big issue, and that is, I have yet to find any published adventure from Kobold Press that has like the Bear King as the main thing, the main bad guy, the main good guy, the main quest giver. There are enough adventure hooks, there are enough IDs if you read the lore of the Bear King. So if you're into that and you want to create kind of your own thing, like your players go into the world of the Bear King and accidentally kill a bear that attacks them. The bear attacks them, but they kill the bear, so they get attacked by the Bear King or whatever, or that adventure hook where they have to woo the female bear. You can create all of that yourself. I hope you get a bunch of great ideas from it, but this is just a shout out to Kobold Press. I'd really love to see a really good adventure, like, which just is titled The Bear King's Wrath or something like that. Something better probably, but yeah, that's what I would like to see. Then I want to talk about a Fey Lord called the Moonlit King and a Fey Lady called the Queen of Night and Magic. And the reason I want to talk about them together is because they are basically together. They are a married couple, but the thing is, they hate each other. They cannot be in the same room at the same time. As a matter of fact, it was the Moonlit King who has been like the ruler for a very long time of the courts of the Shadow Fae. And yes, it is about, this is the adventure about the Moonlit King and the Queen of Night and Magic. This really cool courtly adventure. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Before we go on with this presentation, I am using a Shard Tabletop as a base to do this presentation, and I'm also using Kobold Press content to show you stuff for this presentation. Basically, there's Kobold Press content on Shard Tabletop, which is my absolutely favorite virtual tabletop, and via the link in the description below, you click the link, then you click shop now. There is a ton of discounts for the virtual tabletop itself, Shard Tabletop subscriptions themselves, and a lot of these books that I'm showing you right here, a lot of this stuff is also discounted through my personal link. So if you want to get into Shard Tabletop, into Kobold Press via that Shard Tabletop, make sure to click that link in the description below, create a free account, fiddle around with it, do whatever you want. Thanks. It is the Moonlit King who has been overthrown by his own wife, the Queen of Night and Magic, who is, I don't want to say good, but she rules more with like this, she's better. Like the Moonlit King is really bad, and the Queen of Night and Magic is really loved by the Shadow Fae that are in her court, and she's really respected. But she overthrew her husband, and is now she has casted away her husband, and he now lives in this tower somewhere where he's like kind of jailed in a magical way, and he can't get out, and which is, yeah, he wants to come back, he wants to become the new ruler again and overthrow his wife, but well, he can't really, because his wife is getting a lot of support from a lot of people. Now, the reason I always also want to talk about these guys is because it is the complete exact opposite of the Bear King. The Bear King is like this dirty, big, strong man. There's a lot of fighting and a lot of power and a lot of like boots on the ground, getting your boots dirty type of game, while this is really a really courtly adventure. Courts of the Shadow Fae is a real courtly adventure with a lot of political intrigue, a lot of things you need to unravel. You need to gain levels in standing in order to even have an audience with the Queen of Night and Magic or one of her people who are below her. It is a small campaign slash adventure going from level 7 to level 10, if I'm not mistaken, and I really love it, but I've never ran it, and I've partly played through it, but the group kind of fell apart. But I really want to continue playing this because, again, as a player, I really like these types of courtly adventures, but as a dungeon master, I'm just not that good in running them. I just think it's very interesting because the Bear King doesn't really have anything published for him, except for like what's in the monster book and what's in the Midgard book and whatever, like the standard stuff. While these two, the Moonlit King and the Queen of Night and Magic, have like the entire courts of the Shadow Fae. As a matter of fact, there's even more to it. There is this book by Kobold Press, which I've also reviewed, 12 Peculiar Towers, which actually has an adventure, a level 15 adventure, if I'm not mistaken, that expands on kind of lore of the courts of the Shadow Fae, because there is this lunar knight who followed the Moonlit King. He is a follower of the Moonlit King. He is actually his right hand, but when the Queen of Night and Magic casted her husband away to a tower, she casted the Moonlit King away to a different tower, and he now has his own court, his own thing, and he doesn't really have any power outside of that tower anymore. So he's actually like secretly waiting for his master, the Moonlit King, to gain power again. And I think it's really interesting that they expand on that. So the contrast is really there. The Bear King doesn't really have anything printed for him. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe there's like this big campaign, like this big of a book that I just missed. But for me, There isn't really anything of this scope or this size. While these two have the Course of the Shadow Fey, which is a big adventure with intrigue and takes a lot of sessions to complete. And there's even, they expand on it with 12 Peculiar Towers. I've played through this tower, I've ran it for my players, and they really, really loved it. It is a tower, but it has like these sub-dimensions that have a labyrinth, and you have to have a competition with other knights, and you have to go through, even if the Lunar Knight wants to talk to you, and that's how Fey work, right? Even if the Lunar Knight is like, yeah, those people are trying to reach me, they have to reach the highest room in this tower, even then, he'll be playing with the party as like they need to be able to travel through the tower and overcome all those challenges to even be able to talk to the Lunar Knight. That's how important they think they are of themselves. So that's really cool that there are the Fey Lords and Ladies, because when you say the sentence Fey Lords and Ladies, you're always like, oh, Lords and Ladies, they're dressed up, and there's this courtly thing going on, there's political intrigue, and there's people going from one court to another, and people betraying each other, and it's basically Game of Thrones, but for Fey. It isn't. It is, but there's also that really aren't. So if you're into that courtly stuff, into that intrigue stuff, into like Bold and the Beautiful, but in Midgard, this one is for you, and you should really check out the Lunar Knight, and you should really check out the Queen of Night and Magic. But there is way more printed about the Fey Lords and Ladies than I'm showing you on Shard Tabletop, so make sure to check out some stuff. For example, the Wrath of the River King is a really good adventure that is right in between the Bear King's lore and the Courts of the Shadow Fey lore, if at least to my opinion, because it is this this River King who sits inside like the other side of the river. There's a dimension that you go into if you do the right thing with a certain river, and then you become like part of the River King realm, and you can travel there. And there is this River King that sits there and has their own hierarchy. They have their own court, they have their own political systems. There is intrigue going on in there, but this world really is a jungle world where there's a lot of combat going on, and the players really need to get dirty in order to accomplish it. As a matter of fact, I've ran this as a dungeon master, and the players running this, the players playing this really liked it because it really hit it for them. They told me it hit a sweet spot between that role playing, that talking to people, getting higher up, kissing ass, basically doing all that stuff, and like the travel across the jungle and into the river and almost drowning and fighting weird creatures that aren't in the mortal realm but are in the River King realm, the river world or river realm, whatever they call it. It strikes this perfect balance, so I really love this one if you're into Fey Lords and Ladies. And then my absolute favorite adventure that has a Fey Lord or a Fey Lady, actually has a Fey Lady called the Dusk Queen. The thing is, I've been looking around, and there's not much more information about the Dusk Queen than this adventure, Shadows of the Dusk Queen. It is a very short adventure. You can play it probably, it's a level 4 or 5 adventure or something like that, and you can basically play it in like 1 or 2, maybe 3 sessions. And it is this Shadow Fey who set herself into a dark forest and now rules over that forest. And the cool thing is, this forest isn't really big. So there's this Fey lady who just went into that forest, which isn't very big, but she said, like, I'm going to sit in that tower and I'm going to be the queen of this forest. So all the creatures in the forest actually, well, they actually listen to her and are afraid of her and are afraid to flee, but also afraid to stay. And this adventure is really, really, really good. One-shot-ish kind of adventure. I can play this by heart. I don't even need the freaking booklets. That's how many times I've ran this as a game master. First time I ran this, I was actually on the receiving end as a player, and then I started running it for my other players, and oh man, I love this. This is really good. Again, within that same team. But if you want to get your hands dirty, this one is an adventure where your players get their hands dirty. And there's thousands more of things to say about Fey Lords and Fey Ladies in the Midgard world, but I'm not gonna do that. Because this is a rough guide, and a rough guide is meant to point your nose into the right direction to tell you what is up and what you can use, and after that, you fend for yourself. You go and create adventures, run adventures, make shit up on the fly, I don't care, as long as you put it in the comments below and tell me what you've done in your game with Fey Lords and Fey Ladies. And until next video, bye bye.